We're talking things that stress us out, like the future, comparison, acceptance, and expectations. God wants to do something with our stress. He might want to carry it for us. He might want to use it to show us something about ourselves or about others.
This one is a hard one. Comparison, the stress of comparison. At some point in our lives, we've all looked around and said, just not as fast as that person, as smart as this other person, as good looking as them, or as successful as they are, or as in shape, or as brilliant, or as cool, or as whatever. Comparison gets really stressful. I want you to know this. It's a natural thing to look around and evaluate where you stand in the world. It's a natural thing to look at the grades in a classroom and go, okay, I did okay. It's not too bad. It's a natural thing to want to try your best and want to be the best. That's a normal thing. But when we spend our energy and our life comparing ourselves to other people, that's when it gets stressful. That's when it gets to the point where it stops us from really living, and all we do is we spend our whole life just looking around and comparing ourselves to other people. What a stressful way to live. And it's okay. It is okay to want to know that you're normal. It is okay to want to know whether or not you're average or whether or not you're below average. That's a normal part of life. But if you and I let that run our life, we are going to be super stressed out by comparison. And here's why comparison gets so stressful. Because it takes all of our joy away, it takes all of the fun and learning things away, it takes all of the excitement of trying things away if we're always trying to meet the mark that other people set, and we're always trying to figure out if we're good enough for other people. All the fun goes away and anything we try if we're so focused on comparison. Comparison takes our love, joy, and peace away. It takes the love of just living life. It takes the joy of trying new things. It takes the peace of knowing that we're okay and we're all right, and it replaces it with jealousy, with selfish ambition, with envy, and with division, basically with comparison. It takes all that stuff away and replaces it with comparison. And God says that if you and I want to live a full life of freedom, we need love, joy, and peace. But comparison stresses us out so much that we can't get those. Comparison makes it hard for us to see other people with love in our hearts. In fact, we replace the fact that they're people and they deserve God's love, and we turn them into like measuring sticks to see if we're good enough. The answer to the stress of comparison is to look at people the way God looks at them, with love. Here's what God says about dealing with comparison in our lives. In the Bible, the book of Corinthians says this: love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wrong. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Here's what God is saying about love and comparison. If you're in a situation where you're comparing yourself to someone else and they're just not as good as you in a certain area, don't look down on them. Don't be rude to them. Look at them through the eyes of love. Look at them the way that God looks at them and see them for what God has created them to be. And if you're in a situation where you're comparing yourself to people around you and you're just not measuring up, like you just feel like you're not being able to compete with them and you're dealing with the stress of comparison, be patient and kind with yourself. Allow yourself room to grow. Allow yourself room to get better at whatever the thing might be. And understand and know that if you're comparing your natural gifts to someone else's, they might not ever measure up. And that's okay. You're still okay. The stress of comparison, though, will replace love, peace, and joy with self-doubt and anger and frustration and stress. If someone wins and you lose, you can easily beat yourself up because you're stressed out about comparison, or you can simply go, get them next time. If you win and someone else loses, you can easily rub that in their face and be stressed out the next time about being compared to that victory, or you can simply celebrate and appreciate the moment. The stress of comparison will take all the joy out of competing. It's important to compete. If you play, you should want to win. But if we're bogged down by the stress of comparison, we can never be free and never have that full love, peace, and joy that allows us to compete to our fullest. So here's a big idea. Comparison is stressful because it takes away love, joy, and peace. If we look through the eyes of love, even in the midst of competition, we can go hard after stuff and not deal with the stress of comparison.